Ice Cube did a 2-part interview with Tucker Carlson. If that sounds like a weird combination, it's actually not as weird as you think. Ice Cube and him talked about everything from, acceptance within his own community. They talked about vaccines. They talked about the housing market. They talked about everything, and it was a lot of fun. I had a great time listening to this. I will say this. Tucker Carlson is not exactly throwing the hardball questions at these people that he's interviewing.
I'm not asking him to press Ice Cube on all of his opinions or throw hardball questions. I just don't think his questions in this interview were interesting.
They're kind of there.
It was a leading question. It was more like Tucker just saying his opinion and then phrasing it as a question.
Yes. But then here's the problem. You wonder why stuff like this gets made. Ice Cube actually makes a statement. He's like, look, we don't talk to each other anymore. We're not talking. The size, he goes, I bet even Russia and Ukraine have people talking to each other, trying to find a way to bring the conflict to the end. But then you wonder why nobody's talking to each other anymore.
He said, when the talking stops, that's when the fighting starts. But I think when the fighting has already started and you start the talking, it doesn't stop the fighting.
Eventually, the hope would be that it does eventually. But the problem is this, look, within a day of this being written, the articles are coming out about his anti-vax interview with Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
The media, without missing a beat, always proves themselves to be every bit as despicable as you already imagine them to be.
You should hate the media.
And no matter how much you do,
thoroughly,
you should hate them more.
How much you hate them, you don't hate them enough.
Yeah. I sent you the clip from Vigilant Fox where Ice Cube gives his answer as to why he didn't get jabbed.
Okay, here we go.
Facts. You had a direct order to take it. You were told to take it.
Yeah, I'm not real good with direct orders, but on a whole nother note,
but it was a command.
They
told you. They couldn't have been clearer about it.
Yeah, it was pretty clear. Did you take it?
Of course not.
Yeah, no, it wasn't ready.
Fox was mandated. So he probably got some type of exemption.
He also has a studio in his house in Maine.
And I didn't
like
feel
Ben
safe.
Shapiro in Florida.
But they told you you were safe.
I know what they said. I know what they said, and I heard them. I heard them loud and clear. But it's not their decision. There's no repercussions if they're wrong. But I get all the repercussions if they're wrong.
Was it a tough call for you?
No, it wasn't a tough call. I wanted it to be an example for my kids. Really make sure they didn't take it either. Show them that I wanted to stand on my convictions and that I was willing, to lose $9 million and more because we've probably lost more, since then.
The idea is that people who stand on their convictions are heroes. They're brave. They have principles. They're the people we look to for inspiration. But in this case, with this decision and these principles, you were not hailed as a hero.
No.
You were attacked.
So why won't you get the vaccine, man? Hey, look, man, I'd just rather be myself than take that vaccine like you other 3 billion bozos.
I never told anyone not to get vaccinated publicly. That was never my message to the world. I didn't even want people to know whether I got vaccinated or not. I was pretty upset that even came out because I was just gonna quietly, just not take it and deal with the consequences as they came.
Do you know anyone who was injured by the vaccine?
I do, and they suffer every day, and it's hard to watch. Suffering in silence is not the answer all the time. Sometimes you gotta let people know what's going on so you can actually move the needle. I choose to be vocal.
Get it? Move the needle.
If it's true, why can't I say it?
Well, you can't say it because it is true.
There it is. Now that's the problem with the world today.
There's no penalty for lying. No one's ever punished for lying. It's only telling the truth that gets you in trouble.
Ain't that something?
That's true.
Yeah, that is.
So you see all of this, and then HuffPost says, Ice Cube ripped for anti-vaccine ride-along interview with Tucker Carlson.
Which is not what it was. He said, like, I didn't tell anyone that they couldn't get it. I said that it wasn't for me. Also, I actually kind of disagree with him. It's like his idea that that people who stand on their convictions are heroes. I think they're remembered as heroes, but a lot of the times they are hated early on for standing on your convictions. So they're just people these days, they want to be seen as the hero for standing on their convictions now, and usually it has to be history that bears that out for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you were one of the people that was like, no, that was vocally like, no, I'm not getting a vaccine and stuff, and we're saying that kind of stuff on the internet, you were taking a lot of heat. So,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, if you feel like this is dangerous, telling other people not to get it. There were plenty of people preaching to everyone that they had to get it, or they were a bad person, or they were essentially holding a gun to the head of their immunocompromised grandmother.
Yep.
Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it if Ice Cube were to tell other people not to get it. But again, he was just saying this was his private stance.
Yeah, he never
and it
wanted it
isn't
to come
any of
out.
anyone else's business what decision you made.
yep.
And you don't have a choice anymore about picking sides, because, like, look, ever since he's been mildly speaking out, The View won't have him on. He mentions that The View, they
He
won't
said
have him on.
The production team told him that The View hosts just found him so abhorrent, despite him being on The View in the past, that he couldn't make an appearance on the show.
Yeah.
And that Oprah also refused to speak to him on camera.
He points out the hypocrisy of the world he lives in right now, because they point out that Adam Silver, who runs the NBA, who parrots a lot of the same neoliberal talking points that everybody talks about, that everybody discusses, has worked very hard as a businessman, because the business always comes first, to crush Ice Cube's big three basketball company, right? So at the end of the day, all the virtue signaling doesn't matter, because it always ends up coming back to the bottom line for them. They can virtue signal because it does good for them with their stock, or with their stock price, like with the, with investors and people who are big in the. Is the NBA a nonprofit?
Traded?
Is
I don't know.
it's a nonprofit just like the Major League Baseball?
Don't know.
Like, it's good for their image to promote those ideas, but it's not good for revenue down the line, right? Do you remember who was the coach in the NBA who basically admitted when they asked him about the Uyghur Muslims, and he's just like, yeah, nobody cares about them? That happened. I think at one point I said it was Mark Cuban. It wasn't Mark Cuban.
No.
It was somebody else.
It sounds callous, but it's true.
But he was. I was saying, like, that he would never say that publicly. He got caught saying that. Or no. He did. He made that statement, but nobody cared because the media is not going to report on it, right? Because they're going to say what's happening. We don't know what's happening to them. Look, a lot of these things that he points out are it proves that how far the Overton window has shifted. All his points, and I do encourage everyone to watch part 1 and part 2 of this interview. They're so reasonable. Like, all his points are so unbelievably reasonable. Like, there's nothing abhorrent about anything he says here. But then you get to look at some of these things.
It was to the point where I almost found the interview boring.
I love, like, every time he gives an answer and Tucker just beams at him. It's just, it's very, very normal.
One of Tucker's questions was literally, do you get up day to day and just think, you hate people for their skin color? Like,
as if anybody in the world's going to be like, well, yes, actually, that's exactly what happens.
He should have been like, yeah.
Like,
just straight-faced it.
Yeah, I don't think Tucker was prepared for that.
And then, of course, a lot of the Twitter response to this has been people calling Tucker a white supremacist and an alt-right Yahtzee, as they're wont to do, as they love to do to someone like that.
Tristan Tate responded and said, watch, Ice Cube is real as F. Thanks, Tristan.
But
Thanks, Tristan.
Like he also does draw attention. Like, look, he says my views on cops haven't changed that much. I think that they, at the end of the day, they have a combative us versus them mentality, because their goal is to get home at night to their families, and that a lot of times that means that people's rights get trampled on. Now, that's still a very, like, cogent and well thought out response, but it's not all that different from, F the police 20 years ago. It's just phrased 30. Oh my gosh, it has been 30 years, hasn't it? It's like those memes. It says, I hate it when somebody says the year 2000 as if it wasn't, like, they think it's
like
5 years ago, but it's not. It's a long time ago.
It was also funny when he said that after he spoke to Trump, the Biden administration promised that they would make good on whatever reforms that he had in mind, and he had this contact in the Biden administration that no longer works in the administration, that kind of just, he said, took his temperature and it was just like completely, you know, patronizing, you know, like
well,
they talked to him just to make him feel like he was validated.
And even before that, they were in administration. When he talked to Trump, and they were talking about the Platinum Plan or whatever it was called, and then he also reached out to Biden's campaign at the time, and they said, "Talk to us when we're in office." Like they completely dismissed him. Because that's what a lot of these establishment organizations and these establishment people are. They're here to make it sound good, make it seem like they're good people, and behind the scenes they're a lot more cutthroat and they're a lot more awful than the people that they claim to be the bad people. And that's kind of like an amalgamation of all the things wrong with culture. All get kind of trapped into something like this because there was nothing controversial about this interview at all. One of the things I really liked about it is I believe that Ice Cube, he thinks before he speaks in a very measured tone. He doesn't come off as reactionary in any way, shape, or form. He talks about how an insurance company dropped him because of his beliefs. That's crazy. Like,
wait, was it like through his company?
Like he doesn't elaborate on what it was, but he says an insurance company dropped me.
And the $9 million that he was talking about was a movie that he was dropped from for not getting the vax, right? Yeah.
Like it was a requirement. Like if you're going to do this movie, him and Jack Black would have all the cast, all the crew would have had to have gotten it. And that's even coming up in the discussions with the writers and the actor strike right now. Some people are pointing out, they're like, look, that we didn't like the authoritarian measures that were taken during this, and everyone, hindsight is 20/20 for everyone, but he didn't have a choice. He wasn't given a choice, and he, like they said, he didn't try to make this public. Other people made it public in an effort to smear him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it bothers me, man, because it shouldn't require Tucker Carlson, who is a insanely political figure, to have these things said.
You are ghettoized once.
Yes.
The only interview you can get is Tucker Carlson.
Well, he went on Rogan too.
Explicitly partisan commentators.
He went on Rogan, and Rogan is a lot more. Rogan reaches across the aisle a lot more.
I'd be way more interested to see Ice Cube go on The View than this interview. I want to see the conflict.
It would end up getting cut. It would end up on the cutting room floor.
Exactly.
The most interesting parts would never make it to air because they wouldn't allow him to voice his opinions on there, lest people actually get some information that takes them out of their echo chamber.
I'd much rather watch 10 minutes of him having a respectful disagreement with people on The View than 20 minutes of him peacefully agreeing with Tucker. Like it wasn't as interesting, and like when you ghettoize people, it becomes that way. Like the world is just becoming more boring.
It's happening with musicians now too. Like the dude from Mumford & Sons who reads a book by Andy Ngo and now can't be in a band because he read a book. We live in the most insane
We don't even
time.
know if he read it. He just bought it.
Oh, he's one of those horrible people that does the thing where they take the picture with the book on their lap and they're like, how I'm spending my Saturday, but they don't actually read the book.
Curled up.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like that.
Curled
that's
up
why
with a good book.
That's why you get kicked out of the band. As far as I'm concerned, that's worse.
Yep.
That's worse than reading a book that's bad. Is pretending to read a book.
You can read Mein Kampf, but if you curl up with it, you're done. You're done.
Just like, hey, like just read it. Don't tell us about.
That's right.
Reading
Don't
it,
curl
right?
up with it.
Like, or you don't get to post that picture until you can write a thesis on the book.
You're not gonna ooh you.
I'm curled up with a good book on a rainy day.
You're not gonna
and it's
ooh your way
Mein
through
Kampf.
Kappa. Yeah.
Actually, the funny thing is like I actually I posted a picture on my story once, and like James Lynn in Cynical Theories was in the background, and somebody actually pointed it out. They're like, "Why are you reading that?" And I'm like the
no
fact
one
that
should be paying that close attention to what you post.
Exactly, like
on
that's
Instagram stories.
The correct answer is, does it bother you? And if they say yes, then you say that's why.
Exactly, right?
That's
like
the whole thing.
But it is like this means that he's now ghettoized, right? He has to stay in this sphere because the rest of the people, like, you hope that that's not what happens.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if like your serious radio rap shows or rap stations are going to stay away from Ice Cube. I don't think that's happening. I don't know for sure.
I'm sure Charlemagne will still have him. I bet you Charlemagne still has him.
I don't know. Maybe
Charlemagne is the worst, but
he
said that the rap community is in a way like immune from a lot of the politicization because just in the culture of their industry, they have to push boundaries.
But the music will be fine. But when he's doing movies and stuff like that, there's definitely people that aren't going to have him on. They're not going to have him on Good Morning America, I bet. Like.
Do you think he was like subtly making a reference to Kanye when he said that about the rap community?
Could
like,
be.
We're like prone to pushing boundaries and, you know, saying what we're not supposed to say.
Well, I mean, the idea that there was conflict between Ice Cube and Jewish people, that goes back to the 90s.
He's a Farrakhan guy, I believe. Ice Cube was at a certain point.
See, Tucker asked questions about that.
Yeah, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but if I remember correctly,
dude, look, if you listen to like
they were all
Public
Farrakhan.
Enemy, they were big Farrakhan fans. Like even it's hilarious to me. Like Anthrax did Bring the Noise, and there's a line that says Farrakhan's a prophet that I think you ought to listen to, and Chuck D says it, and I'm like, Farrakhan has really nasty things to say about Jewish people, and you got Anthrax, which I mean, like there's multiple Jewish people in Anthrax, if I understand correctly.
I think they just didn't know back then.
I'm pretty confident most Jewish people knew that Farrakhan considered them beneath human beings. But I mean, I can't speak for them individually, but it wasn't a secret that Farrakhan didn't like Jewish people. Yeah. And Anthrax did Bring the Noise with Public Enemy, and Public Enemy said, Farrakhan's a prophet that I think you ought to listen to.
See, the real world is stranger.
The early Kanye.
Super chat from Get123. Can't watch live today, but looking forward to listening tomorrow morning at work. Also, not a fan of Tucker Carlson, but anyone freaking out over Ice Cube going for a drive with him should get over themselves.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Look, I like that Tucker's having fun. He looks like he's enjoying his life post Fox News. Like what he needs to do, it's like Where in the World is Tucker Carlson, where he just goes around and interviews like people that are blacklisted from various places.
It's like when girls post their like post breakup glow up.
Yes.
Their before and afters.
Tucker's glowing up right now.
Tucker's having a post Fox News glow up.
It's amazing. Like I'm completely okay with that.
Good for Tucker.
I think that Tucker will end up like these shows will end up. I would like him to do more regular stories though. Like it doesn't always just have to be the interviews. Like I would like to see him cover more stuff. Apart from just the interviews like this. Like, of course, also we could get Ice Cube on Alex Jones. Maybe we'll get that next. Maybe he'll do Alex Jones in a GIMP mask.
In the GIMP, only if it's in the GIMP mask.
That would be great, right? Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.